welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another video. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. Today I am going to be talking about Lying Next to Me by Gregg Olsen. Lying Next to Me. Check out the cover and tell me what y'all think. What kind of book is this? Don't play with me. Mystery, suspense, thriller, and all that. So this one, it was one of those books, that kind of reminded me, at least at the onset, of why I like suspense books, because they start off, right out the gate, just, with bam, something has happened. There's no build up. There's no leading up to it. You get that like in the first few pages, first chapter, sometimes even the first page or the first sentence. And that's what drew me into Lying Next to Me by Gregg Olsen. Okay, so at the beginning of the book, a woman has been abducted right in front of her husband and her daughter. And they are at a cabin, taking, I think it's over Memorial Day, if I'm not mistaken. It's over some holiday weekend. And they, went out to this cabin on the lake. And he and his daughter are on the water, like in a little boat or whatever. And his wife is back at the cabin, like kind of on the shore, and they can see her. And they see a man come up to her, and, they kind of get into it or whatever. And the man hits her. The wife goes down, and the husband is, furiously trying to paddle back, up to the shore, and he's screaming out for help. By the time he gets up to, where his wife was with this person, they're both gone. Okay. That's like a couple of pages in is what happens. So now we are looking to see, because with all these books, there's always the incident, the people affected, and the police, right? Because the police, the detectives, investigators, whoever, they're the ones that the author puts in place to solve the crime. And as readers, we are right along with them, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So they call the police, and they come out, and initially, they're like, she probably just left with a lover or a boyfriend. Were y'all having problems? That's the typical MO. Most, like, if you see stuff like that on TVs, and I'm sure like in real life, when a spouse goes missing, first of all, the police always suspect the spouse that has reported it, and in most cases, it's always a husband. The wife goes missing 90% of the time. And, they always want to know if you've been having problems, and, is it possible she could have just left you, and that kind of thing. And that's exactly, it followed the formula. That's exactly what happened here. However, in this guy's case, he had a couple of witnesses that saw, that there was something going on while he was out in the boat. Now, one of the police officers, there was like an older man and a younger woman, right? The woman police officer and the husband, whose wife, was abducted, they share history. They grew up together. Rather, as one of his best friends when he was growing up, the female police officer, that's his friend's sister, right? And the friend died like in the war, like Afghanistan or something like that. But, they have that connection. And as we go through the story, we also learn that there's another connection between the two of them, because something tragic happened to the police officer, the female police officer, when she was younger. And this man, whose wife has gone missing, he helped her, kind of rescued her from that. And I guess so I can stop saying the man and the woman or whatever. The man whose wife went missing, his name is Adam, okay? And the police officer, the female police officer, her name is Lee. So that's their names. So initially, the way that Adam is portrayed, he is distraught, right? And like I said, there was an older man who witnessed the whole thing, but he's kind of unreliable because he didn't have his glasses, and his vision is kind of failing. I think he's like in his late 70s, early 80s or something. He was walking his dog on the beach. And then there was a lady who was like in her late 50s. She was with her grandkids. She heard him yelling for help, but she didn't see anything. But she came out by the time he made it back to shore. And then the third group, the house, it was a couple there that had come in later that night, and they were asleep. The wife had gone for a run and the husband was asleep, and she came back and took a shower, and they didn't see or hear anything. So they were, kind of useless or whatever to the investigation. So they question everybody, like I said, Adam is distraught, and it's really seeming like, okay, what has happened with his wife. And as we get, some backstory, you continue to read, everything is always revealed when something happens to someone, that there was this facade, like things weren't as perfect as maybe their friends and family thought. I'm thinking that the bulk of the book was going to be about looking for his wife, who her name was Sophie, that we were going to be looking for Sophie, along with the police. And there was like they had filed the paperwork and they were going to start searching and calling and doing all this stuff. But before they could do that, and it's like the next chapter or two, they find her body, like she's dead, like that. Like it wasn't even a full 24 hours later, I don't think, that they found her body. So now, based on, what the coroner is saying, and, the fact that she didn't have any clothes on and all this stuff, it's obvious that it was a murder, right? So now the police are taking it a bit more serious, because before, like I said, they thought, oh, she just ran off and left you. But now it's obvious that's not what happened. After they find Sophie's body, that's when things start to get, a little interesting, because remember how I said there was a house, there was a couple, and they seemed to be pretty useless to the investigation because she didn't hear anything, he was asleep, and that kind of thing. Well, when you're reading their points of view, because the story is told from multiple points of views, as to what happened, you're starting to realize that maybe they, know more than what they're telling the police, right? And Sophie's parents come, to get their granddaughter, because, like I said, he was there with his daughter, and because he's going to stay there, to try to wrap things up and to deal with the police and, Sophie's body and stuff. And they come to get the daughter and their granddaughter. And Sophie's dad cannot stand Adam. He like goes in on him. He's telling the police he thinks that, that his son-in-law killed his daughter, and, he hates him. He like thinks his daughter could have done better, and he was beneath her and all this stuff. And he has a good job. He's like an executive for a company, and they seem to have like a pretty standard marriage, but the father-in-law is just like, no, this dude is something up with him. And her mom, she's obviously distraught. That was their only child, but she's kind of under the thumb of her husband. So you don't know if he's just like, growling for no reason, or if there's something really there. Is Adam capable of doing, something like that? Well, it was real suspicious because, Adam, in his point of view, he alluded to the fact that while he was sad she was dead, like it was almost like he was relieved because he was so angry with her because of something that she did. And he just kept saying, and I couldn't believe you could do that to me, and you did this to me, and that, but we don't know what it is, right? And he just makes himself look further suspicious, as like before she's even like buried or whatever, before they even have a funeral service or whatever, he starts packing up her stuff, like, taking everything out of the house. And her parents come over, to see their granddaughter. And he's like giving them like photo albums that she had, from her family and different stuff, saying he didn't want it in the house. And so that really makes his father-in-law think, what the hell? Like, you're trying to get rid of all this stuff. Your wife her body's still here, like in the world. You haven't even processed that yet. So, if you're so like torn up about this, why would you be trying to erase all traces of her? Then we get to the point of view with the couple, and their name is Connor and Kristen. They were the couple that were in the house, were sleep and out for a run. Those two, right? Seems that their paths had crossed with Adam and Sophie before, and that is to me, that was like the best part of the book, when we learn how those two couples, how their lives were kind of entangled, and maybe what part people played in Sophie's demise. And I was really like, at that point, I was just into it. I mean, I finished this book in like a day and a half because I wanted to know what happened, right? And we started getting all these bits and pieces of, like what led up to the death, and what was going on prior to her dying, and how they all ended up at the same location where Sophie was abducted, because that starts to come into play as well, that whole thing may have been staged. And just as the reader, as we're finding out things and piecing things together, the police officer Lee, she's starting to figure it out too, but she's really conflicted, because remember I said that Adam had helped her with the situation when she was younger, so she has this like loyalty towards him. But in the end, the oath she took to be a police officer overrode everything, and she ended up really looking at things with unbiased eyes, and she started to piece it together, and she ended up having to confront him about some things. And that's where, for me, the book kind of took a turn, and I don't know if it was in a good way. I will just say this, because I don't want to give any spoilers or ramble on too much more, but there was, it was a staged abduction. We'll say that. There was a person who took the fall who had nothing to do with it. And in the end, things got turned around, and people paid for what they did, even though Sophie had already died at this point. But I don't know. I mean, because there was one really big twist when we learned about how the couples were connected, what or who connected them. But I'm just conflicted as well, because everything was nice and tidy, but at the points that everything, like all the reveals happened, like the book continued to go on. And I think I talked about this before. It's like, if you give me a big twist like midway, you're gonna have to keep topping that, because okay, I already know like what the twist is. Like, what's the incentive to keep reading? I mean, there was still other stuff revealed, but once you knew that big piece, everything else started to fall in place, and it was obvious at that point what really happened and who did what and who was involved. So it was like it had this rising action that just kept rising, and then you get here to that twist, and instead of it like maybe like the next chapter ending or the people responsible getting what they deserve, it kept going, and so it plateaued, and then it kind of started to go down, kind of in action and holding my interest. So I enjoyed it. But I just wish that the twists and turns and everything were kind of paced differently, like that more of that was at the end. I like a good suspense book where you get those twists and those turns and that shock and that awe, and then like the book, like in a couple of chapters, or not a couple of chapters, but like in a couple of pages, it ends, right? So you're just sitting there with your mouth open, trying to process and digest what you just read. But like there was still time to do that after you figured out what had happened. I mean, it doesn't take away from the story. It's just not something that I was used to. So it was kind of hard for me towards the end to be that excited about, you know, what happened to the main players. It's like, well, yeah, what else could have happened to them? You know, that kind of thing. But overall, like I said, it was a good read. It you know, really kept me engaged. It was gripping. Right out the gate, it held your attention. So if you're someone obviously who likes suspense or thriller type novels, if you love having to piece together different clues and stuff that the author leaves, if you like multiple points of view and multiple storylines in some cases, because there was a lot going on in this book, and you got to kind of see a glimpse in the lives of just about every character, you know, and how they all kind of converged, right? If you like books like that, then you would really enjoy Lying Next to Me by Gregg Olsen. I'm going to give it a 3.75 just because I just feel there was a missed opportunity with the way that everything was revealed. But I would recommend, you know, reading it for yourself. That could just be one of my quirks, right? If you have read Lying Next to Me by Gregg Olsen, I would love to know what you thought about it and how you felt about when things were revealed and, you know, some of the twists that we got. Were you surprised? And maybe I'm just missing something, you know, so I'd love to hear your point of view. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and go ahead and take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. And if there's someone you know who may, you know, enjoy my take on Lying Next to Me, or maybe they've read it, share this video with them. You guys enjoy your day, and I will see you next week. Bye.